It was supposed to be a peaceful holiday, a family getaway, away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. But on the evening of May 3rd, 2007, everything changed. 3-year-old Madeleine McCann vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a room with an open window, a comfort blanket, and a soft toy. What happened to her? This is a story full of twists, false leads, and controversial theories. But it took 18 long years for the truth to begin to surface, and you'll confront moments that will leave you questioning everything you know about justice, and perhaps even challenge your own assumptions about human nature. By the end of this story, you'll not only know the truth but also understand the dark forces that drive individuals to commit the unthinkable. This isn't just another story that you are used to, it's a search for answers, and it's one that you, as a viewer, will help us solve. So stay with us. The answers may be closer than you think. Madeleine Beth McCann was born on May 12, 2003, in Leicester, England. She was the first child of Kate and Jerry McCann, both dedicated doctors with busy careers. From the moment she was born, Madeleine seemed destined to make an impact on the world around her. Her parents often described her as a bright, lively child with a curious nature. Madeleine loved to ask questions and explore the world around her. Her sparkling blue-green eyes, blonde hair, and infectious smile made her a joy to be around. Even at such a young age, she had an undeniable presence that seemed to light up any room she entered. Madeleine was incredibly close to her younger twin siblings, a boy and a girl, who were born in 2005. The three children formed a tight bond, sharing everything from their favorite toys to their little adventures. As the older sibling, Madeleine often took on a protective role, looking out for her younger siblings. Despite the challenges of raising 3 young children, Kate and Jerry's love for their family was the foundation of everything they did. Their home in Rothley, Leicestershire, was always filled with laughter, love, and the sounds of childhood. The McCanns had a strong support system from their family and friends, all of whom adored the children. Madeleine's early life was full of promise. She was enrolled in preschool, where she quickly made friends and showed a strong interest in learning. Her teachers described her as smart and enthusiastic, always eager to be part of every activity. She loved to sing and draw, and she had a special attachment to her comfort toy, a soft, cuddly cat named Cuddle Cat, which she took everywhere with her. Her parents, both dedicated medical professionals, worked long hours but always made sure to spend quality time with their children. Family holidays were something they all cherished, and one of their favorite pastimes was traveling together. In May 2007, the McCanns decided to take a break from their hectic lives and enjoy a family holiday in Portugal. They booked a stay at the Ocean Club Resort in Praia da Luz, a peaceful village on the Algarve coast. It was supposed to be a relaxing vacation, a time to unwind and create memories as a family. Madeleine, her younger siblings, and the McCanns were all excited about the trip. Kate and Jerry saw it as the perfect opportunity for some quality family time, away from the pressures of their work. The resort was known for being family-friendly, with a reputation for offering a safe and relaxed environment. The family spent their days at the resort's pool and enjoying local attractions, and the children were enrolled in the resort's kids' club. Madeleine, in particular, had a great time, and her parents cherished the time they were able to spend with their children. The photos taken on their last day together show a happy, carefree family, with Madeleine beaming as she sat next to her father by the pool. The night of May 3rd, 2007, began like any other during the McCann family's holiday in Praia da Luz. Madeleine, along with her twin siblings, was put to bed around 7 p.m. by her parents, Kate and Jerry. The children were tucked in, the apartment was secured, and the parents, wanting a break, left the kids alone to enjoy a meal with friends at a nearby restaurant. The Tapas restaurant, located just 55 meters away from their apartment, was a short walk along a public street. The parents could still see the apartment from the restaurant, and they had planned to check on the children periodically. At around 9:05 p.m., Jerry McCann left the restaurant to perform his first check on the children. He went to the apartment, opened the patio doors to peek inside, and confirmed that everything seemed normal. The children were asleep in their beds, and he went back to the restaurant, not yet worried. Around 9:30 p.m., Kate decided to check on the children herself. She was familiar with the routine, walking over to the apartment to ensure everything was fine. When she reached the children's bedroom, something was wrong. The door to the room was wide open, far wider than it had been when she left. As Kate entered, she immediately noticed that the window was open, a detail that hadn't been there before. The curtain was fluttering slightly in the breeze, and the metal shutter outside, which was normally locked, was now raised. Madeleine was gone. Kate ran to the bed, hoping against hope that maybe her daughter was still there. But the bed was empty, save for a pink blanket and Madeleine's beloved comfort toy, Cuddle Cat. Panic swept through her as she realized her daughter had disappeared from the room. She rushed back to the restaurant, screaming, "Madeleine's gone. Someone's taken her." Kate and Jerry, along with their friends, quickly began searching the area, calling out Madeleine's name. They ran through the streets and checked the nearby areas, but there was no sign of the little girl. They tried to remain calm, but the minutes stretched into hours, and the possibility that their daughter had been taken started to feel more and more real. At 10:10 p.m., Jerry sent a friend to the resort's reception desk to alert the staff, and at 10:30 p.m., the resort's missing child protocol was activated. Over 60 guests and staff began searching the resort and surrounding streets until the early hours of the morning, but no trace of Madeleine was found. The Portuguese police were called and arrived on the scene at 11:10 p.m. By midnight, they had alerted the criminal police, and soon after, the Polícia Judiciária (PJ) arrived from Portimão. The search intensified, with police bringing in sniffer dogs at 2 a.m. By 8 a.m. the following day, a full-scale search operation began, covering the resort and nearby areas. Yet, Madeleine was still nowhere to be found. The apartment where she had been taken from was treated as a crime scene, but in the early hours, investigators made several missteps that would come to haunt them. The apartment was not properly secured, and several people had walked through the room before it was sealed off. Despite all these efforts, Madeleine's whereabouts remained a mystery. There were no obvious clues, no signs of forced entry, and no immediate evidence of what had happened. Theories began to emerge. Had Madeleine wandered off on her own? Had she been abducted by someone nearby? Or had something more complicated taken place? As the days went on, no answers came. What had started as a desperate search for a missing child was quickly turning into a much larger, more complex investigation that would draw in media attention from around the world. The following days brought a mix of hope and confusion. Several possible sightings of Madeleine emerged, some claiming she had been seen in nearby areas or even in Morocco, but none of them led to any concrete findings. Meanwhile, the Portuguese police's handling of the case came under scrutiny. The crime scene had been compromised, and there were doubts about how efficiently the initial investigation was being conducted. As the investigation into Madeleine McCann's disappearance unfolded, it quickly became clear that the Portuguese police were facing a complex and high-profile case. However, their handling of the investigation drew significant criticism. The initial theory from the police was that Madeleine had simply wandered off, but there were too many inconsistencies in this idea. The apartment was locked from the inside, and there were no signs that Madeleine had left on her own. The window, which was initially thought to have been the point of entry, wasn't showing any signs of being forced. As the days went by, it became apparent that the police were not pursuing the right leads or securing the crime scene properly. Their slow and ineffective response added to the mounting pressure, with each passing hour making it harder to find any new clues. In the midst of the investigation, suspicions began to shift. With no clear evidence pointing to an abduction, some members of the public and even the police started to suggest that Madeleine might have died in an accident inside the apartment, and that her parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, had covered it up. This theory quickly gained traction within certain circles. The McCanns had left their children in the apartment alone, even though they were so close to the restaurant, and critics began questioning whether that decision had played a role in Madeleine's disappearance. Portuguese police were quick to capitalize on these doubts, and the McCanns found themselves under intense scrutiny. The media, eager to keep the story in the public eye, fueled the fire with constant coverage. Journalists from both the UK and Portuguese tabloids began circulating rumors and speculating about the McCanns' possible involvement. They published stories that ranged from accusing the McCanns of sedating their children to suggesting they had faked the abduction in an elaborate cover-up. This media frenzy only worsened the McCanns' situation, as every misstep or inconsistency in their statements was highlighted and exaggerated. The parents, who were desperately searching for their daughter, now found themselves accused of being responsible for her disappearance. These allegations were damaging not just to their reputation, but also to the public's perception of the case. Meanwhile, despite all the attention and media noise, there was another lead that had been largely overlooked. On the night Madeleine disappeared, a witness named Jane Tanner, a member of the McCann's holiday group, reported seeing a man carrying a child near the McCann apartment. Tanner said she had seen him walking along the street that ran past the apartment around 9:15 p.m., shortly after Jerry had checked on the children. Tanner's description of the man was vague, but it offered investigators a new direction to pursue. The man was said to be carrying a child dressed in light-colored pajamas, and his behavior appeared strange. He didn't look like a typical tourist, which raised suspicions. Tanner's sighting became a key part of the early investigation, though many questions about its accuracy remained. The Portuguese police initially dismissed Tanner's sighting, and the theory of an abduction began to lose steam. Yet, Tanner's account was not the only suspicious sighting from that night. Another couple, the Smiths, also reported seeing a man carrying a child around 10 p.m., not far from the McCann apartment. This man's description was more detailed, and the timing of the sighting aligned closely with the time Madeleine would have been taken. The Smiths described the man as being in his 30s, with short brown hair, and his behavior suggested he was not just walking casually with a child. This new lead gained more attention, especially as it was now closer to the actual timeline of Madeleine's disappearance. As police began to dig deeper into these sightings, the investigation became more complicated. They followed up on several leads, including interviews with several local suspects, but many turned out to be dead ends. At the same time, public pressure mounted, with each day without a breakthrough raising more doubts about the effectiveness of the police. Some began to wonder whether key evidence was being ignored or mishandled. The Portuguese police had failed to secure the crime scene properly, and some of the evidence that might have led to answers had been compromised in the early hours of the investigation. On top of these challenges, rumors and conspiracy theories continued to swirl, creating an atmosphere of chaos around the case. The McCanns, once just victims of a horrible crime, were now viewed by many as potential perpetrators. With the police unable to identify a clear suspect, the public and media speculated wildly. Was there more to this than an abduction? Had the McCanns made mistakes that led to their daughter's disappearance? Or was there a stranger lurking in the shadows, just waiting for an opportunity? By the time Scotland Yard became involved in 2011, the investigation had already become a tangled web of conflicting theories and missteps. The search for Madeleine McCann had turned into a global media spectacle, and every new lead added another layer of complexity to an already overwhelming case. As the investigation continued, the rising tension only intensified. The longer Madeleine remained missing, the more the public demanded answers. And as new suspects and leads emerged, the search for the truth became more urgent than ever before. In the years following Madeleine McCann's disappearance, the case seemed to stall, with few new developments to grasp onto. However, in 2013, the investigation took a dramatic turn. British authorities, under Operation Grange, released an EFID image of a man who had been seen near the McCann apartment on the night Madeleine vanished. The image, based on the testimony of a witness, immediately caught the attention of the public and investigators alike. This was not the first sighting, but it provided a fresh lead, and it was enough to reignite the investigation. The renewed focus on the man in the EFID image led to a deeper look into several potential suspects. As the years went on, more leads and theories emerged, but it wasn't until 2020 that the investigation reached its most significant breakthrough. German authorities, who had been looking into the case alongside Portuguese and British investigators, announced that they had a prime suspect, Christian Bruckner. Bruckner, a German national with a long criminal history, had been living in the Algarve region of Portugal at the time of Madeleine's disappearance. His name had been circulating for years, but in 2020, German prosecutors revealed that they had gathered new evidence linking him to the crime. This included phone records placing Bruckner near the McCann family's vacation apartment at the time of the disappearance. The evidence seemed compelling, and for the first time in years, the investigation was breathing new life. Despite the mounting evidence, Bruckner remained silent throughout the investigation, He had already been convicted of other crimes, including sexual abuse, and had a history of offenses in the area where Madeleine went missing. Bruckner's name had come up before in connection with the McCann case, but investigators had never been able to gather enough proof to make an arrest or charge him with her abduction. Now, however, with new evidence, he was once again thrust into the spotlight. German prosecutors had been investigating Bruckner for several years, piecing together his movements and examining his criminal activities. In addition to the phone records, they had gathered information that placed him near Praia de Luz on the night of Madeleine's disappearance. They also found links between Bruckner and other criminal activities in the area, which suggested he had been in the right place at the right time. However, despite the mounting evidence, Bruckner denied any involvement in Madeleine's disappearance. As of 2020, he had yet to be formally charged, and his connection to the crime remained under intense scrutiny. The investigation into Bruckner's involvement in Madeleine's abduction seemed like the breakthrough the case desperately needed. However, with no direct confession from Bruckner and no definitive evidence that conclusively tied him to the crime, the case still remained unresolved. As German authorities worked tirelessly to gather more evidence, the world waited, hoping for the clarity that had eluded them for so long. Would Bruckner's silence hold? Or would the evidence finally force him to speak? The breakthrough in 2020 also prompted a fresh wave of media attention and public interest. For years, the McCann family had fought for answers, and now, with the potential involvement of Bruckner, the case seemed to be moving toward a conclusion. The question that remained was whether the German authorities would be able to build a strong enough case to bring Bruckner to trial and, ultimately, bring Madeleine McCann home, or at least give her parents the closure they so desperately needed. With each passing day, investigators pressed on, focusing on the key evidence and hoping that the truth, which had eluded them for 13 long years, would soon come to light. The investigation was far from over, but with the involvement of Christian Bruckner, it was clear that a major shift had occurred. This was no longer just a case of a missing child. It was a race against time to uncover the truth and finally bring justice to Madeleine McCann. As the investigation into Christian Bruckner's possible role in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann gained more traction, investigators uncovered unsettling patterns that seemed to tie him more closely to the case. Bruckner, a German national with a criminal record, had been suspected of involvement in similar crimes, and as the case progressed, his connections to the area where Madeleine vanished grew more apparent. In 2023, fresh evidence came to light, adding fuel to the suspicion that Bruckner may have been in Praia de Luz on the night Madeleine disappeared. His phone records showed him in the vicinity of the McCann family's vacation apartment that evening, putting him at the scene just as Madeleine went missing. Despite the mounting evidence, however, Bruckner remained silent. His phone records were clear, his past criminal history damning, but still, he denied any involvement in the crime. The lack of a direct confession added a new layer of complexity to an already baffling case. Investigators began to focus on his movements leading up to the night of Madeleine's disappearance, tracing the locations of his phone and cross-referencing them with key details from the crime scene. Yet, Bruckner continued to refuse cooperation. He was aware of the evidence against him, but he stayed firm in his silence. The turning point came when investigators spoke to Bruckner's ex-girlfriend, who provided a chilling statement. She revealed that Bruckner had made unsettling comments in the days leading up to Madeleine's abduction. According to her, he had mentioned something about a job he needed to do in Praia de Luz, though at the time, she didn't fully understand the implications of his words. This statement, along with other evidence, painted a picture of a man who may have been planning the crime for some time, and yet, despite this revelation, Bruckner still refused to speak openly about his actions. In the face of such compelling evidence, the psychological tension between investigators and Bruckner reached its peak. He was cornered. Everything pointed toward him, yet he remained resolutely quiet. His refusal to confess left the case hanging in the balance, with many questions still unanswered. Was he really the one who took Madeleine? And if so, why wouldn't he confess? As investigators pushed forward, the frustration grew. The pieces of the puzzle were nearly in place, yet the final key, the confession, remained elusive. Bruckner's silence became more than just a refusal to talk. It became a psychological standoff. The evidence was overwhelming, and yet, the absence of a confession made the whole case feel incomplete. It was as if something crucial was missing, a final piece that would tie everything together. As the investigation continued, Bruckner's silence kept the mystery alive. Despite being one of the prime suspects in Madeleine's disappearance, he showed no signs of breaking. The more investigators uncovered, the more the question lingered. Would Bruckner ever admit to his involvement, or would the case remain unsolved in the court of public opinion? The climax of this investigation is not only about the evidence gathered, but the psychological warfare at play. Every new piece of evidence pointed in Bruckner's direction, but without his confession, it remained just that, a theory. The investigation was at a critical juncture. The question now was whether justice could be achieved without his words, or if the case would need to rely on circumstantial evidence to seek a resolution. Her parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, continue to advocate for their daughter, determined to find justice for her. They have faced immense challenges, including public scrutiny and the relentless media attention that has followed them for years. They are still driven by the hope that one day, the truth will be revealed, and the person responsible for Madeleine's disappearance will be brought to justice. As of now, investigators are still working through the evidence and following up on new leads, hoping that one day they will uncover the missing pieces of the puzzle. Despite the progress that has been made, the ultimate resolution of Madeleine's case seems as distant as ever. Her disappearance has left an indelible mark on the world, and the search for answers continues to shape the way people view child abductions and the justice system. While the case has raised awareness about the dangers facing children and the importance of vigilance, it has also highlighted the complexities of investigations into long-term missing persons cases. As new details emerge, we will continue to bring you the latest updates. This case, full of twists and turns, deserves the ongoing attention and dedication of those who want to see justice for Madeleine. If you want to stay up to date with the latest in this investigation, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement helps keep the search for answers alive. Stay with us as we continue to follow the case and bring you any new developments. Madeleine's story is far from finished, and together, we can keep the focus on finding the truth. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with more updates on this continuing investigation.